Hello, friends. I hope you are fine. I welcome you back to my data analysis in SPSS series. Now, in our last series or section, we actually looked at how to import Excel data into SPSS for analysis. Now, in this particular section of the series, we are going to look at how do we find some frequencies when we have a qualitative or categorical data. So we are going to proceed from where we left off in our last section. So let's get to it. So now, once you have your SPSS data, so there's our SPSS data. So given the SPSS data, we would want to actually perform or find some frequencies for a given qualitative or categorical data. Now, in order to do that, you have to first of all identify what are your categorical or qualitative data. In other words, in SPSS, name it as nominal data. So if you look at the variable view of SPSS, now by default, SPSS is able to actually identify the type of measure of each of your variables. So for instance, sex here is a nominal variable, which is also said to be a qualitative data or a categorical data. We have married here, which is also, the question was, are you married? Which is also a nominal variable. And then we have several other nominal variables. But given that our focus over here is going to be on sex and then married, that the question of married was, are you married? And our respondent answered yes or no. So given this information, we want to perform some frequencies. In order to perform some frequency, you go to analyze, and then you click on descriptive statistics. There'll be a drop-down menu, and then you select frequencies. Now, after selecting frequencies, now we have this dialog box to the left, and then we have the box to the right. The box to the right, which is named variables, is where the variable you are going to be analyzed will be actually placed. So if you want to analyze sex, then we have to actually click on sex, and then we click on this arrow sign, and it will push it in. Now notice that you can actually bring in more than one variable. So we also want to analyze married. That's, are you married? Then we bring it in. They are all categorical variables we would want to analyze. Now we can bring in all the categorical variables, as many as possible we would want to analyze. But for now, let's focus on these two categorical variables. Now also notice that instead of pushing these variables one after the other into this variables box, you can actually click on one, and then you hold on the control key, and then you click on the other. By so doing, you can straight away push all the variables you wanted into the variable box. Now, what do we do? So we want to perform some frequency, so we can click on the statistics. So under statistics, what are some of the information we are looking for? So we might want to see some, let's say, quartiles of our data. If you want to see some percentiles, you can click some percentile. Now remember, mean, and it doesn't make sense to find the mean of a categorical variable or a qualitative data. So you don't click on the mean. Neither it doesn't make sense to actually find the standard deviation. Yeah, so you just, maybe we might want to actually see, I mean, again, also, you don't also need the quartiles, given that you are dealing with a qualitative data. So you don't need any of this information if you are actually finding the frequencies of a given qualitative data. So let's go continue without clicking on anything. So now, if we want to display any kind of chart, we can actually go ahead and click on the chart we would want to display. Now, for a qualitative data, you might want to display, let's say, a bar chart or a pie chart. So we would want to, let's say, display a bar chart for each of our categories. Then in the bar chart, we would want to have it in what percentages rather than the frequencies or the count. So we click continue. And then you have this box, which is already checked, display frequency table. You leave it as it has been checked. And then we now click OK. So once you click OK, this information display the frequencies of the data we ask SPSS to analyze their frequencies. So we have the first one, which is the statistics, which is giving us the number of count, and then the missing values, which we don't have any. And then we have gender, and then we have married. So these are the information we have, and on agenda we have male and female and their percentages and their cumulative percentage. And when we scroll down, we can have a display or visual display of the gender and then that of the married. We can see that majority of students within this data set are females, and also majority of them are not married. So this is how you can just simply display a simple frequency of any given qualitative or categorical variable for SPSS. So I hope you actually enjoyed this section, and I hope it was very helpful. So see you in another section of this data analysis series in SPSS. See you. Bye-bye.